Hey, this is the Fight Nerd, and welcome to the first edition of the FightNerd.com video podcast. We don't really have a name for it yet, but we're going to figure that out later. And I am, of course, the Fight Nerd, and joining on the split screen is Fight Nerd correspondent Hiroko Yamamura. Hiroko, how are you today?
I'm great. How's it going, Matt?
It's good. You're all the way in Chicago. I'm here in New York. The magic of technology. What a wonderful thing.
I feel like I'm in your room right now.
I wish you were. The things we would do if you were right now. Oh my god. This would so be rated R.
Were you playing with those action figures behind you?
I was, some of them, yeah. Did you notice the Inoki one behind me? I don't know if you can see Inoki behind my head.
It's cool.
He is very cool. You gotta love the Inoki. He's always a wonderful dude. I was trying to actually get the Inoki dressed as a hobo figure. I got that from highspots.com, and I bought like the Best of Inoki 5-disc pro wrestling set. It was supposed to come with the Inoki hobo figure. Instead, they sent me this Inoki robed figure. It's, not what I wanted. It sounds cool seeing Inoki dressed as a homeless guy, but any Inoki toy is a wonderful thing to have.
Do you slap it around?
He slaps me around, actually.
Okay.
It's like cool. In Toy Story. He just wakes up when I'm sleeping and just starts slapping me in the face. I feel like I'm Machida, but yeah, that's another story for another day. So, yeah, this is our first podcast, and, I haven't really been on camera in quite some time. Hiroko, I think you've been on camera more than I have in the past 6 months, in fact, for this site. And
yeah, I like the attention.
Yeah, I know you do. You attention whore you. I've just been having some various things going on in my life, so I haven't really had a chance to pop in on camera as much as I've wanted to. So this is going to be one way we're going to help get me back on camera, as well as get Hiroko on camera, and Peter Lampisona, Rodolfo Roman, Brandon New, pretty much whoever's on the team. You're going to see them rotate around every time we do these shows, and hopefully we'll get some guests on the show too. We'll see, reach out to some people, see what happens. Hiroko, I'm sure you know plenty of fighters out there.
I'm trying.
Yeah, you're so lying. I know you and Chael Sonnen got a thing going on.
You can't tell his girlfriend that. She'll kick my butt.
I'm sure she will. And before we get too much further into this little experiment here, I do want to give a shout-out to the sponsors of thefightnerd.com, of course, MMAHQ.com for your daily MMA deals. Go check them out when you're done watching this. Don't forget ringtocage.com, who send us all sorts of goodies from boxing gloves, shin pads, whatever they got. And Ranger Up, who, of course, support the troops and also make some really kick-ass gear, and I'm going to wear it next time on the show. But today I'm representing Hook and Ladder number 8 on my boob, Ghostbuster Firehouse in New York City. Yeah. Just nod your head and agree, Hiroko. Good, good.
I'm representing black.
You racist. No response. She's got nothing for me.
No response.
Nothing for me. Well, before we jump into anything...
to be politically correct.
Not on this show or not. So yeah, but as we go along, we want you guys who are watching the show to also, give us your comments. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us think, or let us know what you want us to do on the show. Like this time we're just going to run through a few quick topics, talk about, we could do predictions, we could do all sorts of other stuff. Just tell us what you guys want to see from us, and we'll, assuming that they're not terribly horrible ideas, we'll try and work them into the show when we can. Now, before we jump into anything too deep, I want to show you guys a little thing I got here, and Hiroko, check that out. Zombie Cage Fighter number 1.
Did you get the autograph?
I did. Guys, see that right there? To the Fight Nerd.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and the cover is by Michael Avenoning. I never say his name right, but yeah, I got this from Nate Quarry recently. And this is, I'm sure you guys know, Nate Quarry, one of the hosts on MMA Uncensored Live, gave this to me. And it's pretty sweet. It's written by Blair Butler. The artist here, I always forget the guy's name, Peter Starwalt. Art is kind of similar to the cover there. Let me show you guys one of the splash pages real quick. Look at that.
Nice.
It is, yeah. And I recommend you guys check it out. I believe it's on zombiecagefighter.com. Definitely worth picking up. Support the brand, Zombie Cage Fighter. I love it. I wish we had more MMA zombie comics. I think we need more of that out there. Do you agree?
Who else is going to save us from the apocalypse?
None other than Nate Quarry. That's who.
None other than Nate Quarry.
You have something else you were going to show. You were trying to beat me with this whole autograph contest. You got something too.
So the other day, one of my friends who is friends with Quinton Rampage Jackson sent me this. It is a shitty little printout of like a 48 by 48 pixel printout. But of course he wrote something very rampagey. He said, to my favorite lesbian midget, why thank you so much, Rampage, Quinton.
It's a very accurate description. Yeah, I could totally see that.
That means he doesn't want to marry me anymore.
Well, you're busy with Chael Sonnen anyway, having throughways with his girlfriend. I mean, yeah.
I still love you. Rampage.
Even after he eats all that food?
Yeah, what was he eating in that picture? Was that TMZ?
That was a TMZ video, yeah. We're going to get to that a little bit later on in the show. That's a wonderful segue, Hiroko. Good job. High five from all the way in Chicago. Yes.
I don't want to put my drink down.
I know you don't. Whatever it is that you're boozing over there, I know. Keep going. Oh, now you're doing it off camera so we can't see? That's good. All right. So coming up this upcoming weekend, we're going to have a UFC on Fox card, their 4th show on Fox, headlined by Mauricio Shogun Rua taking on Brandon Vera. Why? Because they can, I guess. This is a big problem with the UFC. This is a fight that has no implications whatsoever, really. I mean, Dana White has now said that Shogun could be a contender now for a title shot, apparently, but why? Brandon Vera is a contender all of a sudden? Makes no sense to me. I don't understand this. And the rest of the card as well, it's not really a particularly exciting event at all.
I don't know if he meant that the winner is in contention, or if he means that if Shogun wins, he's in contention.
I believe it's if Shogun wins, he's in contention. If Brandon Vera wins, he gets to fight another day and gets to keep a job and give up work at McDonald's for a little while at least. Yeah, but I mean, the rest of the card, it's Machida versus Bader. That's an interesting match. That, to me, feels more like a contender match. You've got Joe Lazone, Jamie Varner. That's kind of cool. I'm actually looking forward to that one. That's cool to see Varner back in there. I think against Lazone, it's a very tough test for him. But it's pretty exciting, actually. And then Mike Swick making his return after, how many years? 3 years away? So that's pretty cool. But, I mean, overall, the rest of the card's kind of stinky. And to be fair, even this event, Shogun versus Vera, I mean, how did that happen in the first place? It just seems like, and this is part of a bigger problem, that's really just the oversaturation of the UFC events that we're seeing these days. There's been a ton of events already. We're halfway through the year. There's been so many events, it's hard to keep track, and frankly, the quality has been, in my opinion, declining in the last year or so. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you would have said this to me 3-4 years ago that I could get this many UFC events going on. I would have just flipped out and been really excited about it. But I think the problem now is just the amount of the fighters in the stable. I think the contenders have been already kind of defined, and who's a threat to the belts. So outside of that, it's hard to be, I guess, too excited. Yeah,
and you're right. Theoretically, this should be the greatest thing ever. We're getting tons of free MMA. We're getting tons more pay-per-views. The problem with it is tons of fighters that we just don't know who they are. We just don't care anymore.
Right.
We can take
if you would have told me I could see Shogun anytime, I'll be so excited about it. But
for free,
I guess I'm spoiled.
We are a little bit spoiled now. But then again, I mean, are we really being spoiled? Because look at these cards. I mean, this UFC on Fox show. They're not, in general, the Fox shows have not been too great so far. They've been getting better here and there. Still not top-notch, and obviously, that's because the pay-per-views are still meant to be the top tier of the fighters. But even the pay-per-views, it's turning into boxing a little bit now, where a boxing pay-per-view, it's basically sporting one major fight, one big matchup, and the rest of the card, who cares? It's forgettable. Right. And I think that's a problem we're running into right now.
I mean, I think things started really falling apart after the Overeem Dos Santos card. They really tried to stack that card top to bottom heavyweight, make it almost thematically heavyweight, really kind of all exciting matchups. And then after the card fell apart, every other card behind that, because of injuries, rescheduling, or whatever, it's like it saturated certain cards, and they haven't caught back up to the really all-star cards that were going on before.
Absolutely. And even a little bit further before that, I mean, I'd say just, UFC 145. I think that was before that event, wasn't that? UFC 145? That was basically a one-fight pay-per-view. Rashad Evans versus John Jones. It was really a one-note kind of show. I mean, you had Rory McDonald dominate Che Mills. Whoop-de-doo. That was a main card fight for some reason. It was just not a great card. It was really just one big match. And I think that's what's happening here with this Shogun, who, and just even the last few pay-per-views in general. And, luckily, we were just talking about this earlier, UFC 150. That's actually a pretty good card. It's got, obviously, the rematch Edgar versus Bendo. That's pretty cool. There's a few cool matches, but I think overall it's not that strong. And the last events we've seen have just not been booked very strong.
Yeah, I think part of it is even Edgar had the belt for I can't remember how many times he defended it, but he doesn't have the same star power of a BJ Penn or somebody like that. They've got to build up these guys a little bit more to the fan base, and the rematches are always going to have. They're just not going to be as exciting, Especially, how many times does Ben Henderson or I forgot his name just now.
Frankie Edgar. What are you drinking there, Hiroko? What are you drinking in that?
They're not really trash talkers either, right?
Not too much, no. They're very gentlemanly dudes. I mean, there's not that many trash talkers in the UFC, and I think that's another problem, actually, we can get to, is how back in the good old days when me and you were, hardcore fans, we first started becoming hardcore fans, even just 5 years ago, back then, every card was stacked. Every card was important. There was a lot less fighters. You knew who everybody was. Now there's just so many guys. Like, how big is the stable in the UFC now? It's easily over 200 people, if not more, isn't it? Is it close to 300 now, I think? It's a lot of people, considering also
and every time someone gets injured, they bring in a newcomer.
Yeah. I think we, who are we getting on UFC 150? I know there's Buddy Roberts against Yushin Okami. Like, why?
Right.
Yeah, like what Buddy Roberts? Who? I mean, maybe he's a good guy. I can't really say if he's good or not. Just where's the name power, And back when they first started doing the Ultimate Fighter show, the reason for that was to help start building new talent, start building more talent, producing it, breeding it, basically. Now we've got so many TUF shows, and like pretty much, if you make it to the final 8 on TUF, you're essentially guaranteed a contract at least for a little while.
Right.
And there's just so many guys running around from the TUF show now. There's so many shows going on. They're just not as strong as they used to be, and it's just, like we said before, you'd think it would be a great thing to have all these shows on, but it's really disappointing. It's been disappointing the last few months.
And, it's whenever they do the pre-shows and they kind of give you the story of the fighters, you're only kind of finding out about the main card guys. Versus, when you used to watch Pride shows, every fighter kind of got this little tidbit, and if it was edited really good, you were really excited for that guy because his mom was cheering for him, whatever. But they had that, like, quick, minute intro that could make or break someone's career by really good video editing or a good story or something. And, I think that's one thing I really missed from Pride was, like, that tidbit of information about the fighter, right? And why you're going to cheer for the dude or be excited about them, so...
I just think it's a size issue. It's really a quantity over quality issue right now with the UFC. Sure. And I read an article, I think it was on MMA Fighting a while back, and it was basically discussing how, this year is going to be a very important year for the continuing growth of UFC, especially, because right now, this is the most that MMA has ever been in the mainstream eyes. And in my opinion, we can debate this on another show, but MMA is still not 100% mainstream. I know there's going to be a lot of people that argue with me. You agree, which is awesome. But yeah, I know there's a lot of people who disagree with me on that, and they say, no, it's mainstream because it's on Fox, it's on this, it's on that. Just being on a channel doesn't mean you're mainstream yet. We're getting close, but the point of this is, we got all this stuff happening. We wouldn't
be talking about this if it was mainstream.
Exactly. Yeah, if it was mainstream, we'd be hired to be on a TV show somewhere, I'm sure. We're such excellent personalities. But yeah, I mean, at this point now, the way the marketing is going for the UFC, it's basically the point of no return. Like, they can either go all the way to the top at this point, or they're just going to start sinking to the bottom because they're oversaturating the market and they're ruining their own market.
Right.
And I think that the only way to solve that is just better matchmaking. I mean, obviously, you can't really cut down on how many guys you have in the roster, but there's just got to be, I think, better matchmaking somehow if done. I mean, and not to put any, disrespect to Joe Silva because he does a great job, obviously, of who he finds, but in terms of just, like, getting interest in all these fights, I mean, right now they're just building up a main event, and then they're putting supporting fights around it that just don't really matter as much.
Yeah, it was even, like, I was so excited by the Faber-Cruz fight, right?
Yep.
That's not to dismiss Bararo. I don't know how to say his, I don't know when to mix the H's with the R's in there correctly. But, amazing fight. And I almost assumed that he was going to win, but the star power of the card was decimated without Cruz there, And then I understand they have to keep the interim belt going, but, you build up a whole season of TUF with those two talking smack against each other. And then, something happens to Cruz. Of course it's going to be a letdown, right? There's no way, even if Bararo is amazing, which I think is a great fighter, it doesn't have that same excitement.
Yeah, I mean, in general, too, UFC 148 was not a good card. Simple as that. It was not a good card. UFC 149, actually, I would say, Barao favorite card, just not a good event. It really wasn't. It was a terribly boring event. The Sonnen versus Silva 2 event. It did amazing in Brazil, but overall, I mean, not a spectacular event either by any means. Just a lot of subpar cards, and it disappoints me to see this because now is the big chance for the UFC to get up there to really do great stuff, and they're languishing. They're languishing in their own plans, whatever they may be. And it might just be over globalization too quickly since they got the TUF in Australia, the TUF in Brazil. Who knows where else it's going to be going in the next year or two. I think they just need to get back to the roots a little bit and focus more on just building quality cards. Less is more. It really is. Right. Less is more.
It's like going to concerts, right? If your favorite band's continually touring, it's not as exciting as if they do a reunion show once every 30 years or something like that,
So, I mean, will the UFC ever die because of this? I don't think they're going to die. I mean, I'm sure you agree with me on that one, too. Like, they're not going to die. They're going to always stay around. It's just a matter of how big they're going to be. And I mean, do you think the UFC can get mainstream in the next year or two? I mean, is this a possibility, or is this just too much, too fast?
I mean, the coming from Japanese MMA, where somebody like Mirko Cro Cop was recognized by like my aunt and stuff like that, right? Because of television appearances and how the culture just kind of accepts watching fighting and whatnot. The stars from Japan, from a Japanese perspective, were never made because of their winning streaks or anything like that. In fact, that didn't really matter, and sometimes humanized some of the fighters. Like Cro Cop was 100 times bigger than Fedor, right? Fedor, of course, was undefeated pretty much, but he did not have that star power. So someone like Sakuraba and Cro Cop were really carrying the brand. And so the UFC's their tendency to cut fighters after a certain amount of losses or certain types of performances, I think it hinders the ability to build a long time brand with a fighter. So,
And it really is, like you said, like, it's not just the, appearing on TV, it's where you appear and how you appear. Like, we've seen the UFC fighters go on sports shows, but to be mainstream, that means you got to go into mainstream TV. That's, mainstream talk shows like Cro Cop was doing in Japan. We're getting closer to that. We're still not 100% there.
Yeah.
This year it's going to happen.
GSP not being around and him being such a face of the sport, being on endorsing lots of products, people really like him. I think GSP was kind of that character, right? But him not being around has been a real blow, I think, to the UFC, as I mentioned that way.
Yeah, I agree, and that's, we'll talk about GSP and what to do with his belt in another episode, I think, as well, 'cause that's a whole other story we can get into. Sure. That's just, the UFC title scene, it's always bizarre, and right now we got, obviously, Brow with his belt, and what he's going to do with it. That might be for what we do for the second episode of this, but, back to this problem right now, I think this kind of leads into what I want to discuss next also, was just, again, building personalities in the UFC, and the Ultimate Fighter TV show has always been about building the personalities for the next generation of fighters, and they just announced season 16 of the show. My God, we're at 16 seasons already. That's going to be Shane Carwin, Roy Nelson.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's a fun fight, but is it worthy of being on TV, like a whole season of Ultimate Fighter?
I don't know. Like, I think you and I were kind of joking about it before, but if they've got fighters in their stable that kind of subscribe to their methodology of training, it could be pretty funny. But what do you think this has as far as implications to contention and stuff like that?
Nada, zilch. It's got really nothing to do with anything. I mean, Carwin, he's lucky to be even a coach. I mean, in my opinion, he's been a good fighter, but he's not been too great lately.
Yeah.
Nelson, I mean, I don't see Nelson ever getting a title shot, no matter how much I like Nelson. I don't see that happening. Realistically, I just don't know what they're doing with this. I mean, I have a theory. This is a theory that a few other friends of mine share. In fact, they made it up. I agree with it. I'm stealing it right now for the show, so that's their credit right there. But we believe that the UFC is purposely trying to tank this season of TUF.
Wow.
Yeah. We believe that, because the ratings were not good for season 15, the whole live season. That's obviously why, they're not doing the live thing anymore either. The ratings were not good. Heavyweights, they did pretty good before, but this time around, it's, again, Shane Carwin, Roy Nelson. Really? Why? I think they don't want to be on Fridays anymore. Friday's not a good day. They're competing with Bellator, so they're losing part of their core audience to Bellator. And just Friday is not a tough day. Wednesday for the last how many years has been tough day, Wednesday night. And to be on Friday night,
it's a good TV day.
It is a good TV day. It's good for the UFC. It's been good to the UFC for so many years back when they were with Spike. And to be on Friday, a lot of your core audience, if they're not watching Bellator, which not that many of them are, to be fair, but that's another problem. But a lot of them are probably out hanging out. They're doing other stuff. It's Friday night. Why do they want to sit home and watch Ultimate Fighter?
I'm not watching TV on a Friday.
Exactly. I'm forced to watch it. I'm forced to flip through the channels. I got to watch Bellator. I got to see what's happening in TUF Live. And it was a painful season to sit through this season, just because it was on Friday. I wanted to do stuff on Friday nights, but I'm stuck. I've got to go back and forth between MTV2 and FX, and it's just not worth it. And I think they're purposely trying to have the season just do really bad, so they can just say, Friday night doesn't work, we want Wednesday back, or whatever other night they want to do. It's a pretty nutty theory, huh?
I can see it.
You see the merit?
I don't know. I think they're going to always want to make money, though.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I think they're going to try to change things up significantly. with this matchup, you know, and hopefully like the format without the large amounts of reality TV. Like, okay, I'm gonna admit to something. I watch that show for like the reality TV drama portion.
You're one of those people.
I'm one of those people, you know. You know, my favorite season of TUF was with Junie Browning. You know, like.
Oh yeah, okay, that's season 8, wasn't it?
Season 8, I can't remember.
I think that was season 8. Don't quote me on that.
It was hilarious. It was good TV, you know. And so I watched that show as good TV. Not, well, I guess not good TV. Entertaining TV.
Entertaining TV, and yeah,
TV. And I think kind of they've been moving more into the fighting portion of that, and so for me, it's not as interesting because it's not like drunk dudes wrestling with each other, punching each other in the house, and all that kind of stuff.
Drinking sperm and pee, as we've seen previously.
Yeah, those are my favorite.
I'm sure they are. Yeah, I mean, there's going to definitely be shenanigans on the show. It's just, who's going to watch the shenanigans? I mean, do people really care that much about Carwin and Nelson outside of hardcore fans? Like, we're going to watch it for sure, but to bring in the new audience, to bring in the masses, can Carwin and Nelson sell a season on their backs?
Yeah, and then, you know, just looking at them as prototype fighters, you know, you look at either of them, it's a hard sell to someone outside looking at them to be like, oh yeah, these guys are serious business, they're going to be great coaches, all that kind of stuff. Is Carwin's legal situation been cleared up yet, or is that still going on?
I hope it's cleared. Hope for his sake it's cleared.
Yeah, that'll be interesting if it's not.
Yeah, and that weird buzzing noise you guys just heard was me turning on my air conditioner because it is way too hot right now. So hopefully my audio is not too bad. And you know, as we do more of these shows, I'm hoping the production value will also go up, and we'll be able to get nice mics and fancy new lights and stuff. But for now,
a hairdresser for me.
Yeah, and a hairdresser for Hiroko. We're gonna fly one out there, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Now, like I mentioned at the top of the show, Quinton Jackson recently on TMZ caught in action at, I think it was the OC fair, some county fair, wherever he was, some fair or event, eating a lot of junk food. And this guy's getting ready for a fight against a very tough fighter. And
when is that? That's October, though, isn't it?
It's not too far down the line, but I mean, you know, I guess maybe he's getting his cheat on a little bit early just before he's got to start training seriously hard. But, you know, this is a guy that he wants out of the company. We know he wants out of the company.
Sure.
Do you think he's even taking this fight seriously? Because Glover Teixeira, he's not a guy to screw around with. He's going to bring to the fight. He's going to want to take out Jackson. And do you think Jackson's even taking this thing seriously anymore?
Listen, you know, for me, when I followed Quinton's career for a long time. I'm actually a huge fan of his. Dude is best when he's not overtrained. In a way, when he overtrains, he kind of busts up his whole game. I never count him out in a fight. Do I think Glover is probably the next big thing? Yes, right? And this is kind of going to represent the changing of the guard. You know, I think this is probably Quinn's last fight. He's not as motivated as he used to be.
No, not at all.
Just the guy has absorbed an incredible amount of damage on his body, right? Like his legs. You know, sorry, Quinton, but you know, you blow on his kneecaps. You know, there's a fight, right? But he's always dangerous. You know,
he's always got the striker's chance. Look at Matt. He's always got that striker's chance. He's always got that knockout power.
Yeah, he's got the knockout power. I think he has the best defensive stand-up still in MMA, pretty much. His defensive boxing and his ability to deal with strikers, I've never seen anybody defend as well as he can and move as well as he can in straight striking. Does he get caught once in a while? Sure. But, yeah, he's a monster, you know?
So I just think it's a little bit, you know, like the last few fights we've seen him in, it's kind of been the second coming here and there. It's like we see him looking better, but then not so much. It's kind of like this wishy-washy. He's not sure what he wants, it seems like. I think that's kind of apparent in the last few fights he's had, is that, you know, sometimes he's looking good, sometimes he's not. It's just consistency, I think, has been a problem for Quinton. And, you know, with the fight like Glover Teixeira, I don't know if you want to be inconsistent.
Yeah. I just don't think his body is going to hold up anymore.
I got a theory about Quinton, too. I know I got lots of nutty conspiracy theories tonight, but I think after this, you love this stuff, I'm sure. But yeah, after this, I think when Quinton's done with the UFC, he's going to, quote-unquote, retire for like 2 or 3 months at most. And then I think ONE FC is going to scoop him up.
Do you think they're already offering stuff?
I feel like they might. I mean, ONE FC is building up a pretty big roster. They need some star power. Quinton was huge, obviously, in the Asian market. He was there, Japan. He's a big star.
You know, I gotta say something about that. There's a misconception. Japanese fans are, on anything, they move on to the next thing very quickly. There's this idea that the Pride fans are still around. They're kind of not. Like that, the people have moved on from that. MMA fighting, even pro wrestling's not as big as it used to be.
Yeah, that's true.
People take their hobbies and all that kind of stuff pretty seriously, and so when it goes away and it's not like a strictly Japanese thing anymore, I don't know what somebody like that could bring back to the fold. I think he's very popular there, but that he was popular when we were kids. So do the age of those people now, are they going to still watch the stuff? It's a whole new game. So
I think it's a risk that ONE FC is probably willing to take. I mean, again, this is just my nutty conspiracy theory, but I could see them being willing to take that risk with Quinton Jackson because he was such a big name.
Sure.
And right now, who does ONE FC have? They got Bibiano Fernandez. They've got Shinya, kind of, sort of, I guess. They've got some. They do have some Japanese fighters. So they're obviously trying to reach that market. Bringing in Quinton would really bridge the gap on multiple markets simultaneously. They're going to get that Japanese market that they want. They're going to probably get more of the American market to recognize who they are because ONE FC is taking over. ONE FC has definitely become the big Asian market right now for MMA. And to get Quinton Jackson, who was one of the biggest guys in Pride for a long time, and he in the UFC as well, that would be a very big get for them.
I think it would be cool. I think his relationship with the UFC is definitely it's a problem. He doesn't like being there. He doesn't like what he's doing. How's he going to be awesome, right? He's jumping around camps, all that kind of stuff.
That's part of the inconsistency too. Quinton's never really held a camp for too long. He was with Team Punishment for a while. Then he was with Juanito Ibarra. Now he's at Wolf's Lair, I guess. Is he still with Wolf's Lair? I can't remember.
No, I think he's left Wolf's Lair.
He did leave them too, I guess. All right, yeah. I mean, consistency has been a problem for Quinton. But in a place like ONE FC, he can get big paydays, big star power, easy fights. They're not going to give him hard guys to fight. They're going to probably give him cans. Eventually, I'm sure one of those cans will beat him, and it'll be horrible. But they're going to probably want to build him up as a star. That's my theory. It's probably insane, but yeah.
We should bet on this one.
We're going to make a bet on this one? What are we betting? Your Quinton Jackson autograph?
Or Inoki figure for... I don't know, who do you want?
You got Sakuraba stuff, I know, don't you?
I got Sakuraba stuff. Which one do you want?
I want them all, but realistically I can't have them all, can I?
No, you can't have them all.
Do you have that Sakuraba grip trainer? You ever seen that on eBay?
I don't have that one.
I've always wanted to get that. It's the coolest thing ever. It's like you just squeeze Sakuraba's legs and it apparently helps your wrist. It's pretty sweet.
The face molding was not very good on it.
No, it was terrible looking, but it was the concept that was cool. I'd always like to squeeze his legs and get stronger. That makes the most sense to me.
That sounds like something you'd like to do.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, we'll talk about this off camera and place an illegal bet. How about that?
Oh, I thought you meant we were going to talk off camera about Sakuraba's legs. No, not this show. We'll do no.
The mummy wrapping?
Yeah, so otherwise, I mean, I think this is going to be our first show, so I think we've done a pretty decent test run here. I'm hoping that you guys who are watching today, hopefully you guys like it. We're going to try and keep doing these, and we will listen to your feedback, except for the parts where you say that I suck, I've got a big nose, and I'm fat, and the parts where you call Hiroko a transvestite. We'll ignore all that stuff, but the good comments we're going to listen to. And, once again, quick shout-out to the sponsors, MMAHQ.com, RangerUp.com, RingToCage.com. Check them out, buy something, tell them that you saw it on my site. It'll make me really happy. They'll send me more money. It's awesome.
And it's good stuff.
It is good stuff, that too. And maybe we can pay Hiroko to get a hairdresser over there. Yeah, she needs it, clearly. So, yeah, send us your comments. Let us know what you think. And we hope you enjoy the show. And once again, I got an autographed copy of Zombie Cage Fighter, and you don't. Suck on that. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time on the show that we have no name for. Thanks, Hiroko.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys later.